to A Well-Designed Business. My name is LuAnn, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company Window Works from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to this special episode of A Well-Designed Business. For today's interview, I had the honor of being invited by Theodore Alexander to meet and interview in person while I was in High Point, October 2018, Lord Spencer. And in case you just said, wait, isn't that? Yes, Charles 9th Earl Spencer is a British nobleman, peer, author, journalist, broadcaster, and he is the younger brother of Diana, Princess of Wales. Lord Spencer and I visited for about 25 minutes or so in the Theodore Alexander Showroom, and then we recorded this 10-minute interview about the Althorp Living History furniture collection, which he designed in partnership with Theodore Alexander. The pieces are all replications of furniture found in the 500-year-old Althorp Estate, where Lord Spencer and Diana grew up. Now, if you're not already familiar with Theodore Alexander is renowned for unmatched craftsmanship, exquisite finishes, and extraordinary design. Covering a diversity of periods and styles, you will find in their collections thousands of unique lighting, home accents, case goods, and upholstered furnishings. Theodore Alexander's licensed collections include, as mentioned, Althorp Living History, Kino Brothers for Theodore Alexander, Jamie Drake for Theodore Alexander, Michael Berman for Theodore Alexander, and Steve Young for Theodore Alexander, and are available throughout the world at fine furniture galleries and design centers. For more information, please visit www.theodorealexander.com. In the interview today, Lord Spencer tells us about the 500-year history of the Althorp Estate and how that history is captured in his furniture collection. He also talks about his memories of growing up in the castle and some of the favorite pieces in the collection. I found Lord Spencer to be both genuine and gracious, and his stories were fascinating. I understand for many of you, William and Harry are your princes, but for my generation, it will always be their mother, Princess Diana, and of course her brother, Lord Spencer. This was a true pinch-me moment, and I'm grateful for the invitation from Theodore Alexander, and I'm delighted to share my conversation with Lord Spencer about his extraordinary line of furniture with you. Now, let me introduce you to Lord Spencer. So I'm very happy and delighted to welcome Lord Spencer to A Well-Designed Business podcast today. Thank you so much for joining me on the show.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So first of all, I'd love to just share with everybody that we're sitting here in the beautiful Theodore Alexander Showroom at High Point Market, and you have taken some time out to be with us today, and I'm looking forward to it. Lord Spencer, please start the show by just telling us a little bit about the history of Althorp and your family and how it relates to that.
Well, Althorp is a house that my family built in 1508, so 510 years ago, and it's about 75 miles north of London, and it's in very beautiful English rolling countryside. The house is surrounded by 550 acres of parkland, and it has 90 rooms, the house, and I'm the 18th generation to be able to say that it's home. It's a historic home rather than an ordinary family home, and it's a great privilege to live there and to look after it.
That must be an absolute genuine pleasure to really walk through the halls of a home and know that so many of your generations before you've been there. I know, you've said to me that you're a history buff. I have to tell you, I share that same passion with you, so I definitely appreciate that and can imagine the gift that is. Tell us a little bit about how does a relationship between yourself and Theodore Alexander come about? What happened with that and why? Why did it happen?
Well, about 17 years ago, I was approached by an English and an American agent, and they had read a very high-end magazine called Apollo. And in Apollo, it had said that the Althorp Furniture Collection was one of the finest in private hands. And they wanted to suggest to me that we should license it. Well, I had no idea what that meant, but I met various manufacturers and didn't feel particularly comfortable with them. And then I met the owner of Theodore Alexander, a man called Paul Maitland-Smith, and I really liked him, and I was blown away by his eccentricity. He's a man who, while I was having lunch with him, his brain was so alive with ideas that he was sketching down new designs on his napkin. And I hope my conversation wasn't driving him to that. But anyway, we hit it off. And then he and his artistic director said, could they have a look round Althorp? And I said, you're welcome to. And then 3 days later, they reappeared with 10,000 images of things they wanted to work with. Since then, we've been in partnership for 14 years. And we've now had 650 designs made. I think this is the 14th year that I've been to High Point. And it's amazing to see the line evolving through the years. You know, it started off as an idea that might last for a few years. It's going for 14. We're going to continue it. So of those 10,000 images, I think we've now used 650 in designs of pieces of furniture. They're all authentic. 60% of them are direct copies of what we have at Althorp. And then the other 40% are very close, but often adapted. You know, we have different ideas as to scale, comfort. The pieces today are much more comfortable than the olden ones because the original pieces were very much for viewing rather than using. And no, it's been a very successful collaboration. I'm delighted with it. As I like to say, the house has looked after the furniture for 500 years, and now the furniture can look after the house. And it's a constant. There's always something to do in a house that size. You know, with 90 rooms, we have. In the last 20-odd years while I've been in charge, I've put on a new roof, I've redone the exterior, I've redone the plumbing, the wiring, the electricity, everything. And so there's always something to be done.
And that's a little bit bigger project than most of us when we do that, right?
Yeah, but I love it because you mentioned my love of history, and it's genuine. So I can actually combine a family duty with a love of the past. And no, it's been a lot of fun, and I thoroughly enjoy it.
So when we talk about this, you said 60% of the line is a direct copy of the furniture that's in the home. So that means that a regular person can purchase through their interior designer, through Theodore Alexander, a piece and say that this has been in Althorp for 400 or 500 years, possibly some of the pieces.
Well, they can say more than that, actually, because they can give the backstory on every item. My grandfather would have been better suited to have been a curator of a museum rather than an aristocrat in a large house because he spent his time going through the family records. We had rooms and rooms of family records. And he located the bill of sale for every one. So we know not only when each piece was made, but who made it, how much it cost, why it was bought, if it's ever had repairs. We have all those records. And there's romantic stories behind these pieces, you know, and I think that really connects the customer with the piece itself. We all like human stories. So these are not just beautiful pieces of furniture. They are that as well. But they are. I really do think that's why we call it Althorp Living History, the line. It's because the history continues. It's brought back into existence through the creation of these objects.
What a precious gift that your grandfather gave to everybody, right? To take that's a labor of love, to go through and make that documentation of every single piece. And now somebody in our time can purchase a piece and now mix their family history with your family history, right?
I think that's a very important point. I do think when people buy a part of the Althorp Living History line, they are buying an instant heirloom. But then as soon as you welcome a piece of furniture into your house, you add your own family story to it. So I like the idea of people fusing an old European story with their one now. This line's done particularly well in the United States, and I think that the various parts of this nation that connect with Britain particularly, or Europe as a whole, they find something very touching in the history background to this.
It's beautiful. It's spectacular. What an opportunity for the rest of us. In this line, or the entire line over these 14 years, do you have any pieces that are special to you personally?
Well, the one that stands out for me has been in the line for about 12, 13 years. And actually, it was one of the first pieces I saw where I thought, my goodness, Theodore Alexander have done a good job. And it was this incredible sort of, it's a piece called the Washington Chest. And it's called that because it belonged to George Washington's ancestors. And they were cousins of the Spencers way back in the 1600s. They fell on hard times, and my family put them up in a cottage in the local village to Althorp. It's still called Washington Cottage. And in fact, if you go in the graveyard of the local church, you'll see Washington's buried there. And we know that the young Washington girls from the family, they came to work at Althorp, helping as nursemaids and nannies to the Spencer children. And this is a beautiful chest, oak, probably a blanket chest originally, from the early 1600s, very handsome, well carved. And inside you lift up the top, and inside is, as with the original, there's a sworn affidavit in manuscript and handwriting from the local priest swearing that it belonged to the Washington family. And I love the fact that you can still use these pieces. In fact, the original sits outside my study in Althorp, and it has my tennis rackets in it. So it's still a much-loved piece of functional furniture.
That's terrific. That's terrific. So tell us a little bit about our contemporaries, our colleagues, interior designers in the field now. Give us a little bit about what they can expect when they come and they work with Theodore Alexander, about the service, about the company, and about how you hope that they will use your products in their lines.
Well, I'm proud to say that Theodore Alexander view the Althorp Living History line as their top one in terms of premium quality and in terms of spectacular design. And, you know, it's all handmade and it's beautifully made. I love the fact, because my family's reputation is slightly riding on it, that everything works. You know, the drawers slide and glide like you'd expect. The metalwork is going to last. Everything is good. But also, they're very clever with it. So I don't have, because the designs are there, all I have is a right of veto. And I've never had to use it. They've always surprised me pleasantly by how well these things are made. And I love the new fabrics they introduce, the beautiful, strong fabrics, which can take a very traditional piece of furniture and turn it into something quite contemporary just by the sheer visual impact of it. I like it because it's got a huge strength to it, and I like to think that the Althorp Living History Theodore Alexander partnership is the enemy of bland, and I get so bored with so much contemporary design when it just isn't really making an effort. It's just trying not to be anything. And I think that, you know, I love contemporary as much as anybody, but you have to balance a room, and I think even the most sort of modern of settings need some substantial pieces in it to give a room a spine. That's how I see it. And it's important to I must take my hat off to Theodore Alexander. They've taken a very traditional English range, made it very relevant, hugely successful, and it's a global success. You know, I'm off to India in January because they're doing major things with it there. It's in Russia, it's in all the Arab countries. I mean, and I saw some Australians today. Some people bought huge numbers of Althorp today from Ecuador. It really is a global brand, and it makes me very proud as an Englishman, as well as a Spencer. You know, the fact that my family seem to have had pretty good taste and got the right people to make stuff.
I have to say, I'm really, really, really very, I don't know, it's like a little breathtaking to think about here you are, like you said, the house took care of the furniture. Now the furniture takes care of the house from a standpoint of honor for your family, but a standpoint of history. But now also as a business person and recognizing an opportunity that can benefit Theodore Alexander, can benefit your family, but be authentic in its story to all of that is pretty remarkable. And I congratulate you on achieving that.
Well, you're very kind. And I should make the point that all the proceeds that come to me from this line go straight back into maintaining the house. And that's very important to me. You know, we've got to look after this place, and it's been there for 510 years. I'd like it to be there for another few hundred too.
Think about the stories. I mean, think about 500 years. Maybe somebody will unearth this podcast in like a time capsule and that was my great, great, great.
Well, maybe. I just think, you know, the thing is, going back to what would I say to designers, you want your clients to feel good. And I've met people who collect 30, 40 pieces of Althorp, and they fall in love with the line. They love the stories. They love the beauty of the pieces. You know, it's a combination of so many things. And I feel incredibly lucky that I fell into a partnership with people who really knew what they were doing. I had the backstory and the product, but they have the brilliance to bring it back to life.
The partnership is important. It has to be the right people that value what you're bringing and what the whole thing means to you, because it isn't just about pieces of wood. It's about your family living history. Really awesome. Thank you so much for sharing all of your story with us today. We're very appreciative. I'm very appreciative, and I just really have been so honored to talk with you today. Thank you, Lord Spencer.
Well, I've thoroughly enjoyed it, so thank you very much.
Thank you so much for joining me again today. This podcast is a production of Window Works, your resource for custom window treatments and awnings. To learn how we can help you on your next interior design project, go to www.windowworks-nj.com. And if you're interested in working with me on your business, either through masterminds or one-on-one coaching, or you want to know how to get my book, The Making of a Well-Designed Business, or you just want to know what's going on in the podcast land and where I'm going to be, all of that is found at LuAnn.com. Thank you so much. Have an excellent day.